Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your boy James Harris, founder of a movement called Men to Heal, which focuses on men's overall wellness, our mental health, physical health, and of course, our emotional health. I definitely appreciate you for checking me out. And I'm also the author of a book called Man Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planner guide for boys and men to continue to better educate themselves, research and tools and things like that. So I definitely appreciate all my fellow clinicians, therapists who got this in their lobbies doing these exercises and interventions within sessions. I definitely appreciate you. Salute to all the parents out there who got this book for their teenage sons. You can see how much he's grown. I definitely appreciate reading your feedback and getting pictures and, different scripts that you guys are sending. And also salute to those spouses, those wives out there who got this tool and book for their partner and who's been doing exercises over dinner and date night. I definitely like that feedback as well. So if you want a copy of the book, definitely go to Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Target, Walmart, pretty much anywhere books are sold. And of course, my website, mentoheal.com, www.mentoheal.com. I definitely appreciate you. So if you're new here, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for checking me out. I definitely appreciate it. I don't take my platform for granted. We are monetized now. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everybody who's been sharing content within groups or individually or just organizations, period. I definitely appreciate you. So more information will continue to come, not only from me as an individual, but I'll be having a collective of different people coming to share their experience, their thoughts, their progress, their knowledge with you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. And the guest that I got coming up now is.
My name is Zakia McKenzie. I'm the executive director and founder of Nationz Foundation, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Richmond, Virginia, that specifically addresses the needs of LGBTQ people, but specifically trans people and specifically trans people of color. So we provide free HIV testing, STI testing. We have a food pantry, 2 mobile units that go out in the community and offer testing, support groups, emergency housing, rental assistance, a plethora of services for folks who are identified under that spectrum.
Yeah, that's such an important topic and such important work that you're doing. So, what made you want to get started in this work?
I started actually working for this organization called Fan Free Clinic about 25 years ago.
It's the Health Brigade now.
The Health Brigade now, yeah. So I started doing that work because one of my friends had contracted HIV, and in those days, people of color, we didn't really talk about that. And so seeing my friend contract HIV and then go through the different stages and then passing away, I felt that I needed to be better educated, and I felt really guilty because as they began to deteriorate, basically, because that's what happened, I kind of stayed away because I wasn't educated. But after they passed, I felt like it was important for me to gain knowledge about it, educate people about it. And so I started volunteering at FanFree at the time and helping them implement testing programs and outreach in the clubs and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, I was, really performing more. I was like working at Godfrey's and working at Babes and traveling in the country performing. So that was kind of like my platform, HIV prevention and education. And then I left there and I went to work for the health department. And I was at the health department for 6 years. And in my time at the health department, just hearing why people didn't want to come into the health department and kind of understanding that really is no privacy, because on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, people know that it's an STI clinic. So if you walking into the building on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, people know that you're concerned about something or you got something going on. And then there wasn't really a lot of services for folks who identified as transgender, safe spaces for them, or resources for people if you were not HIV positive, because it seems like when you're HIV positive, you get this red carpet effect. But all people, and specifically LGBTQ people and trans people, are marginalized. So creating programs that they were able to access the things that they needed and not have to be positive was what we started to work.
So you seen a void within that space, and you created a platform. And like you just said, so it's not the marginalized job to educate, the oppressed people, the oppressors. So, but if you can, I would like you to, get into your personal story and how we can continue to assist. Me being a heterosexual male, I want to make sure that I'm doing my part as an ally. Because I respect all people, their preferences. All of those things are important, but I think it's a fear or just an ignorance of what it actually is. So if you could, I guess just trans 101, like what it is.
Okay. So I think a lot of people, first and foremost, think that it's always something like based around sexuality, and that's really not what it is. I guess the best way to describe it is, say like when you work out, right? You're not happy with something within your body, or you want your body to be a certain way, right? And you're not happy about it, so you work out to change it. Or women go get plastic surgery so that they can feel more comfortable about themselves. So with trans people, we may be born one sex, but mentally we feel the opposite sex. So it's about making what is on the outside congruent with what you're feeling on the inside. And so, I mean, it's a difficult walk. Like when I came out, I was probably like 16, 17, and like it was multiple processes of coming out. So the first process was me thinking that I was just gay, so that's what I said that it was, and told my mother about it, which she wasn't very happy about it. And then she was like, "Don't ever wear women's clothing, blah, 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 blah." And I think a lot of the hatred and misunderstanding comes from the culture of Black people, and how men are supposed to be, procreators, and, we're supposed to be waymakers and all that kind of stuff. And so to say that you want to give up that privilege and become a woman, people don't really understand that. And so it was difficult, She put me out when she found out, that I was wearing women's clothing. And
at 17?
At 17. And so, luckily I didn't like have to resort to some things that other trans women had to resort to. Because if you notice, it is like a stereotype, or media shows that we're always like doing sex work and stuff like that. And most times individuals who are engaging in sex work is because they can't get employment, or their families have ostracized them at a very young age, and so they're out on the streets, they're homeless, they don't have nowhere to live, they don't have nothing to eat, so that's how they're making their money. But luckily I had friends who kind of pulled me in, made sure I stayed in school, made sure I stayed focused. But that's so much not the story for everybody else.
Yeah. So when in your personal story, you said you thought you was gay at first, meaning male attracted to male. Mm-hmm. What made you feel like that was not, the end of it? You just felt like.
Because like I can remember at like a very young age, probably when I was maybe like 5 or 6, and like I was always attracted to things that were feminine. And I guess because my mother was so dead set, don't wear women's clothing, it was something that I suppressed for a long time, and I didn't really think it could be possible. But then when I got into community, into the clubs, and I started to see that there were people who identified the way that I felt, that's when the light bulb clicked on that this was what it was, and that I wasn't really gay.
Okay, so, well, it is people who just perform. I know you say clubs,
right?
So it can be heterosexual people who just want to perform, and make a living. It's I know a couple of different straight males, like Hollywood. I've seen documentaries on straight males, mm-hmm. It's getting money and stuff like that. So, but for you, you just knew like, oh no, I'm destined to be a woman. Like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the people out there listening, I'm not like trying to be ignorant or rude by asking questions. I just want to ensure that parents listening can get as much information and insight as they can. Or if you are a person who feel this way, you can, know that you're not alone. So some of the questions may sound ignorant, but Zakiyah and I go way back. We worked together many times, so we just want to educate the people. So if you feel that I'm being rude or ignorant to my questions, I apologize, but it's not to offend anybody. It's definitely to get answers out there. So with that though, like being that your mom decided that it wasn't for her to accept you that way, Like, what happened next? What do you feel that people can do if they are in those situations?
So that's why I go back to the org, and that's why it was really important in the creation of Nationz Foundation and what we do, because we support individuals with emergency housing. I recently just purchased a house in 19, I think it was 19 or 20, to provide emergency housing for trans individuals so that they can stay off of the streets, so that they don't get caught up in that. And so also combating social determinants to health, so housing, food, giving them employment skills, tapping into healing and mindfulness, because a lot of times we deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of violence and so much because people don't understand what we're going through. So providing all of those services for individuals is extremely important.
Okay, so I know your mom felt that way, but did any other family members like accept you, or they felt the same way?
My grandmother was like super accepting, and so like that made it so much easier. And you see my face light up when I think about her, because I miss her so much. But she was one of those people who just loved people unconditionally. She really believed in, you know, how you treat people is the way you should, you know, be treated. And she was a big support. She was just like, be the best you know what I'm saying? Whatever you do, be the best you. And so she tried to talk to my mom to encourage her to understand and that I was still her child and she was supposed to love me unconditionally. But my mom wasn't there at the time. My mom was dealing with, you know, addiction. So it was a lot of different things that she was going through. So then me adding this on top of it, you know, it was difficult for her to understand, because I always try to tell people now, you know, we transitioning, right? So we trying to figure it out. We trying to navigate it. So we can't expect for people to just get with the program. Like, they have to mentally transition as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's multiple people transition,
right.
You know. So and that's the benefit. I'm glad you said that, because oftentimes, you remember we did the segment at my spot, the Healing Hub, and it was tons of parents in there with these questions.
Yeah.
On how to talk with our young children, basically, who are in that situation. Some of them, you remember the lady said they stopped talking to the kid and the kid stopped talking to them, and it just was stories like that repeatedly. So we want to end this as rapidly as we could. That's why we're trying to educate people. So if it is, what are some of the tips that you can give to parents who are in that position of not understanding where that child may be within the cycle or the process, or think it's just a phase, or think they'll probably grow out of it, or just feeling guilty because it's probably something they feel that they did.
Right. So that was the first thing I was going to say, to not think that it was something that you did, that you failed as a parent, because my mom, she felt that way. Like, what did you do? Did somebody do something to you? Da, 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 da. And I was like, no, none of that. But like, educate yourself. Remember that even though like this is who we say we are, like, we still productive people. We still want to be positive members of society and to love and embrace your child, because when you turn your back on them, then you are pushing them out into the streets for them to get involved in so many things, or so many of the negative things that you see in media that you don't want your child to get involved in. So I just say love, encourage them. There's different organizations, like if you need help navigating that, come see us here. There are organizations that specifically work with parents of trans kids, support groups for parents of trans kids. And again, like I said, it's nothing that you did wrong. It's just really supporting them. Also making sure that they have access to proper medical care, because so many times, you know, we go to the extreme to try to get that transition, to get that aesthetic that we want. Like when I'm 40, I'll be 49 in December. So I was 17 when I came out. There were no plastic surgeons doing work on us. So I went to this thing called a pumping party, where I basically went to a hotel room and another trans person pumped me with what I thought was silicone, or what was supposed to be silicone, for me to have that aesthetic. And so many times people have died from those procedures, or people are buying hormones black market. So I just think that if your child is strong enough to say this is who they are, as parents, you're supposed to love your children unconditionally. So show them love and support, and question and ask, you know, learn, read, reach out to community resources, because it's not like it was back in the day where it wasn't nothing that you could access to understand.
No, I listen. I definitely appreciate you being open and vulnerable with your personal story and giving out the resources. So for the people who want to know, like, if you don't get the reassignment surgery, are you still considered trans, or like what is?
So a lot of people think that like the end all be all for trans people is reassignment surgery, and not everybody. Like, that's not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Some people, one, is very expensive, may not can afford it. Two, there could be medical reasons why they can't get it done. So like being trans is both legal, medical. So when I say legal, meaning that you may want to change your name, and just don't have any work done, but your aesthetic is you dress like a woman, blah, 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 and you want to be addressed as that, and your pronouns are she and her, or whatever your pronouns are, he or him, depending on, where you are under the trans umbrella. And then, like, medically, so you're on hormones, and you're having facial feminization surgeries and stuff like that. And then there is like being post-op, where you are actually having that reassignment surgery, but not everybody wants reassignment surgery.
Okay, so
that doesn't negate that level of womanhood or manhood, because they don't want that surgery done. Because at the end of the day, you can't walk around and show it, right?
Yeah, so I mean, and that's, like, who's looking, or
Right.
why do you even care if you're not with the people?
Right.
I mean, that's an argument in itself. But so for the people who say, or I guess negate the fact that you can be born a certain way, like, how do you feel about those things, or what's, I guess, the correct, or from where you sit, like, how do you, I guess, answer that question if somebody's saying, no, you wasn't born this way, or
Well, I simply tell them, you can't tell me how I was born. You don't walk in my shoes, so you don't know how I felt. And for me to be as such a, like, I've always gravitated to things that were feminine. And I think that parents need to pay attention to their kids, right? And so, a lot of my friends, they said that they gravitated to things that were more feminine or things that were more masculine, and then they were like scolded because, no, boys don't play with dolls, or girls don't play with trucks, or you being a tomboy. And they always make it seem like it's so negative instead of embracing that. And that is probably some things that maybe your children are trying to tell you at a very early age that you can't get past, because, I think about people and they talk about these gender reveals and, all this other kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, you don't really know what your child is going to be when they grow up. So I think people should just be concerned about having something healthy, bringing a healthy baby into the world, and nurturing that child so that child can be both productive, successful, and whatever identity it is that they choose to be.
Yeah, so when we talk about identity, or sexuality, it's a lot of different things opposed to just the physical or the visual genitalia. We're talking about hormones, we're talking about estrogen, we're talking about
laser, so much stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think, they get caught up on what's visual. So if you just joined us, Nationz Foundation, Zakiyah, awesome, so many different resources. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I would definitely have Nationz Foundation's information in the description, so you can reach out to them. If you do know anybody who needs support or have questions about LGBTQ+, anything you need to know, she will definitely help you. She's an awesome resource, not only just for the city of Richmond, but so many surroundings. She got resources and connections in so many different places, so many safe havens and hubs and all that stuff. So what's next for Nationz Foundation?
So we are embarking on a lot of different things. The main thing that we're working on right now is, because there are so many people testing positive through our STI clinics, that we're getting ready to bring on a nurse practitioner 30 hours a week to provide treatment for those that test positive. We just recently launched in February our PrEP clinic. So, and I'm not sure if people know what PrEP is, but PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. So it's a pill called Truvada or Descovy that you can take on a consistent basis, and it makes you resistant to contracting HIV. So we have a PrEP clinic that we kicked off, so we're trying to build that up. We have a new Rapid Start clinic that we're getting ready to start up. So that is for individuals who test positive, that when they leave here with their positive test result, they will also have a 7-day supply of meds to start, that antiretroviral therapy, and also an appointment within 7 days to see a medical provider so that they can suppress that viral load. Because at the end of the day, the medicine has changed with people living with HIV. And so, like I said, PrEP is there, Truvada and Descovy, so that they can keep people from contracting HIV. And then we know that when people's viral loads are suppressed that are living with HIV, they're less likely to transmit HIV. So U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable.
Okay, how can somebody support Nationz Foundation? Are you guys donation based or?
Yeah, we're donation based. So you can visit our website, nationsfoundationrva.org, and you can see how it's spelled on my shirt. You can follow us on cashapp. Cashapp aim to inspire, and you can always come in, drop some food off at the food pantry, whatever.
Okay, yeah, I'll be sure to put all these resources at the end of this segment. Anything else you want to leave with the people? You want them to know about LGBTQ+, you want them to know about Nationz Foundation, you want them to know about the trans identity community, just the visibility in itself?
Yeah, I just think that, last year there were 44 trans women of color murdered last year. And when you think about trans people, it is really not a choice for us. Like, a lot of people think that we choose to be transgender. We don't choose to be transgender. The choice is when we choose to live authentically. And so I just encourage you to get to know people. Stop, being hypocrites. Stop being judgmental. Because at the end of the day, when you have conversation with us, you will find out so many things. There's so many things that could be in common. Like, we want to be homeowners. We want to own businesses. We have dogs. It's so many different things that we have in common with other people. And stop always just thinking that, it's just sexual with us, and that's just where our whole mind is all the time, because that's not really the case.
So, from your personal stance, though, why do you feel that there's such a stigma or a phobia there to where somebody wants to display violence or even anger? I understand, if you don't like some or associate with some, you don't have to harm them physically, but why do you think it gets to that level?
So I think one is when you really read the stories, because a lot of times I'm always Googling the articles and reading how these things are happening to my sisters or brothers, and a lot of times it's the people who love us that are killing us. And the reason that these things are happening is because the world is so closed-minded, and men can't love who it is that they want to love. And then I also think messaging from some of the churches, because there's a lot of churches that I have been to, and just that whole thought process about who we are, about LGBTQ people. And then, like I said, Black culture, instilling that, that ain't right, it's taboo. So a lot of people show hatred because of that, when they really should not. We're not trying to impose who we are on you. You may have people that you don't like the way they dress, but you still cool with them. You understand what I'm saying? Or you may have, family members. You can be a drug addict, you can go to jail, you can be a pedophile, and that's okay. They can get past that. But it's when you're transgender or you're gay, they don't get it. And to me, you need to be accepting and you need to be loving.
Yeah, no, so definitely appreciate you for accepting me into your space. Yes. And allowing me to give this information to the people. And I'm sure it's going to be tons of questions that's submitted, so I'll be sure to send your information out.
Okay.
So, this was good. I'm sure a lot of parents are gaining insight, a lot of people who may feel now it's okay for me to find the resources and ask questions. Because I do know it's a lot of young people out there who feel that way but don't know where to turn to, because they can't go to mom or dad, mm-hmm. or the church, because they will be shunned away. So I'm glad that your resources exist, and of course so many different others. But now As far as visibility, though, the media is leaning toward more affirming and accepting. I see. How do you like that?
That makes me happy because, like, you know, I've been doing this work for a long time, like 25 years. So to see laws go into place, you know, to protect us, and a lot of times people say, well, why do they need laws? But we are the most oppressed and marginalized population. So when you look at it, if there are laws to protect us, then it trickles up because it helps other people on so many other levels. But, you know, I've done a lot of work with the police departments because back in the day, they would, you know, refer to us as men in a wig or transvestite, murdered, blah, 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 blah. And if you notice, the language is changing and they're identifying people as trans women or trans men when things are happening with them. You know, we're more visible in media for positive things. I think that Pose was really a great depiction of our community and the struggles that we went through. So if people don't really even understand the lifestyle, then go look at Pose, go on Hulu or wherever and look at old episodes of Pose, because all of those things really tell the story of our lives and what happens. But I just think it's a lot of positive stuff. We got, you know, Lil Nas X, he done bust wide open, and you know, we have people in office. You know, the governor has created an LGBTQ advisory committee. I'm honored to have just been recently appointed to the Human Rights Commission for the city of Richmond. So
That's
being
dope.
the first trans woman of color to be in that position is pretty dope. So I just think that things are changing and the mindsets of people are changing, and that people need to, you know, get educated.
And I want to say, last election there was a trans woman elected to Congress. I'm not sure which state she's from, but you know that was big because I think she was the first.
Yeah.
And so speaking of the Lil Nas X situation, what about, how do you feel when people say watching stuff like that on TV, the show that you mentioned, Lil Nas X, can have a way or sway children and things like that?
I don't think that really sways children. I think that, prime example, so I have a nephew, right? I've had my nephew since he was 3. And my mom and them they were trying to figure out, like, what are we gonna tell him about you? And I was like, don't tell him nothing about me. Let him, you know, ask when he's old enough to ask. So
How old is he now?
19.
Okay.
So when he you know, first start, like, he never called me Kia or nothing like that. He just straight up, it was auntie, that was who he saw. So my family, they was like tripping out. So when he turned about 7, him and I had a conversation in the car, and that was because it was a picture at my mom's house from my prom. And he was like, I saw this picture of you and you was a boy, and he was like, now you're a girl. And he knew what I did for a living when I was at Fan Free, and like I would bring him to the office, and you know, like I surrounded him, you know, with different people so that he would not be judgmental, so that he would not be a homophobe, you know what I'm saying? And so I just think that when you know, broaden your children's mind, when you put them around different communities and different people and seeing their different struggles, it makes the world a better place. I believe that phobias and, you know, racism, all of that stuff was taught, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, kids look at how you treat them. Are you nice to me? Are you good to me? And so I don't think that, you know, seeing stuff on TV, because like, he done been in my whole life all this time, right? And he's not gay. He is very heterosexual. He loves women, but he's also respectful of our community. He understands that when he sees trans people, no matter where they are in their transition spectrum, he respects that. And at the end of the day, that's what we need to do as human beings, respect other people.
Yeah, and I will agree with that. But you know, if people, my thing is, like, if you want to cancel or say something's inappropriate, then say what's inappropriate opposed to just picking and choosing. You know, if his video with men naked is inappropriate, then the opposite should be inappropriate with the women naked.
Right.
You know, so those are things, like, if you don't want your children seeing things that are inappropriate, that's fine, but don't signal out one group.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I still think that, like, at the end of the day, things are like age appropriate. So, like, would I let my 6-year-old see a Lil Nas X video? No, that's too much. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I just think that, you know, things are age appropriate, just like, you know, movies are rated. You don't just let your kids go see XXX movies. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you need to, you know, kind of filter your kids, but also don't shelter them. You know what I'm saying? And then I also think that there needs to be more education in schools and around the diverse identities within the LGBTQ spectrum, because a lot of times people are in school and they don't feel supported either.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a incredible point to mention. Like, it's your job to educate your child, like, regardless of what they're watching on TV or being around within the community. Like, it's up to you to educate them. And the thing with the education, though, some of it is bias, you know, because the parent, you know, because if your mom had to educate your nephew, he probably would have been on a different end, you know. So those things are definitely important too. So if you don't know how to educate them properly, or you don't want to be biased, but you want to ensure that they are getting some good information or information that's healthy, then you definitely got to do your research as well and put your biases aside, you know, because at the end of the day, like, loving, support, healthy relationships, and nurturing is definitely where it is, opposed to the hatred and anger and resentment for so many different reasons. Because people just want to live, people just want to be happy, and more than likely, it don't even affect the next person, you know. So those are the things that are so wild within the media and stuff like that. So go ahead, drop your information so people can get in contact with you.
So again, my website is Nationz Foundation. So Nationz, Nationz Foundation RVA.org. So check us out. We're located at 4794 Finley Street in the East End, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So we have testing all day long if you need to access services with us.
So they have condoms, the PrEP, you said, which is the HIV prevention drug now, resources for anybody specifically or additionally for trans community, LGBTQ plus community. They accept donations, cashapp, as well as, you said, food pantry, right?
And you can follow us on, you can donate through PayPal as well. And we serve everybody. Like, when you look at our, like, who is coming in for STI testing, it's everybody, you know. But then we have, like, specific programs that are geared specifically for LGBTQ people. But our food pantry is open to the general public on the first and third Fridays of the month from 2 to 6. We have all kind of fresh vegetables, Panera bread, pastries. We get a lot of stuff. So if you're in need, if you see our mobile units out and you need something, don't hesitate to ask for it, because it's on there to help.
Zakiyah, definitely appreciate you. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I would definitely have all this information at the end of this video in the description. But if you got questions for me, if you just want me to relay a message to Zakiyah, I would definitely do that. www.mentoheal. Of course, you can subscribe, like, share, comment, let me know. I will pass all the information on. Send me an email if you don't feel comfortable reaching out, if you're in another state or whatever. I'll be sure to let Zakiyah know, or if she probably can find you resources within your area if you are in a different geographical location. So feel free to hit me up. I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we probably have to do a part 2, because I'm sure it's going to be questions and comments for parents, or, you know, just people who feel that they are ready to transition or just ready to be open with who they are. So I definitely appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm always down for the conversation. I think it's important to continually have conversation. It's never like going to be a one and done. You gonna always have to have that conversation, because I'm still learning on a regular basis, because it changed so much, language, everything. So
Definitely. So again, appreciate you for letting me in.
not a problem.
And I'll be sure to pass your information along.
Okay.